there are problematic habits that affect negatively one's mental health. And the first two that come to mind are a misassessment of one's full potential, having an idea of limited capability. The second is related to that, but it has to do with having one's identity forged and formed merely by the outside world reflecting back to you what the outside world thinks of you. Taking too much regard of the outside world as your source of identity. What am I? I am whatever it is people think I am. The first one we need to look at because it's more foundational. The fact is, even in the skull, in the cranium, we have 10 to 12 billion neurons that have a capability of generating any level of creative intelligence that could ever be needed to meet any demand successfully. We produce 100,000 thoughts a day. And those 100,000 thoughts are all streams of energy and intelligence that are coming from somewhere. Deep inside of you, there's an infinite reservoir of creative intelligence that uses that brain of yours to express itself as the solution to what other people consider to be problems in the outside world. Why would we feel a limited capability? Well, based on experience. I experience that, one might say. Demands are made on me, and I only have a certain amount of energy, staying power. I only have a certain amount of creativity. I don't seem to be able to come up with any solution beyond what's right in front of me. I have a limited amount of intelligence, the ability to discriminate between one thing and the other thing that may be very like it but not quite it. And so with these limitations on my creativity, my intelligence, my staying power, it's evident that my capability is limited. And therefore, whatever I have to offer, either in aid of myself or in aid of others, is very limited. What a depressing thought. And why are these limitations one's regular experience? It's because of the insidious way in which stress accumulating day by day in the physiology has made our brain go into a kind of chronic brain failure. The brain failure is being caused by overaccumulation of distorted information that accompanied all of the overloads of experience we've had in the past, the maladaptive reactions that we've had, the stress reactions that we've had, and these things were all natural. Stress is not the enemy of the human. Stress is, in fact, a fundamental survival reaction. Without stress, none of our ancestors would have survived long enough to reproduce, to create our own generation. Getting stressed is not the dangerous thing. It is staying stressed that's dangerous. When we get stressed, our body is simply taking a guess that something might be worthy of a fight or flight reaction. And so our body defaults into a maladaptive response, which is to either fight the demand that's being made on me or to flee from it. And then once we recognize that we either successfully fought or fled, or that the situation in fact didn't warrant that, we can recover from stress reactivity pretty quickly. But our brain holds on to all kinds of peripheral information that has to do with the colors, the smells, the sights, the sounds that happen to be around at a time when we had a stress reaction. And this legacy of stress, which also is called stress, legacy stress, means the way in which the body holds on to its reactivity and hooks that reactivity to a particular color, a flavor, a smell, a sight, a sound, or combinations of these. This overloads the brain with distorted information, with distorted importance, and the brain's constantly running these programs. As you enter any place that you're unfamiliar with, and that's anywhere outside your bedroom probably, Your brain is constantly scanning the environment to see, and this is unconscious to you, to see whether or not there might be something in that room or outside, if you're outside, that could match certain things that happen to be around in the periphery at a time that you got stressed once. So this legacy stress, the after effect of having been stressed, is the continuation of stress reactivity. And that continuation of stress reactivity eats up our adaptation energy. It eats up our potential. It eats up our capability. And so then we find ourselves literally in a position where, when a new demand is made on us, we have very little computing power left in our brain to be able to come up with anything creative or creatively intelligent or adaptive, or to have any stamina or staying power. And so our experience is that of a depletion caused by the chronic brain failure, caused by, in turn, accumulation of stress that goes on unmitigated for a lifetime. The moment we begin practicing Vedic meditation, as our mind settles down into those deep inner reaches of that beautiful, least excited state, when the mind touches the unboundedness of being, and then the body rests at unprecedented levels of rest, the body is able to throw off, to release, to relieve accumulated stress. And this removal of stress from archived stress from the body, and removal of stress from the body, central nervous system, and brain, awakens the brain's full potential. Grade by grade, percentage point by percentage point, we move from having what is the average in modern society, which is about 2% access to our true underlying available mental potential, to having 10%, 15%, 30%, 40, 50, 60, 70, and eventually 100% availability of our brain's full capacity. And so Vedic meditation will unleash massive amounts of potential, giving one a real sense that I have capability. And this will erase the first of these two fundamental intellectually bad habits that reinforce a sense of whether or not I'm worthy or I have low self-worth. So with regular practice of the meditation technique, we awaken our capability, and our sense of self-worth is going to be based upon our record of having met new demands more successfully. As we continue practicing the technique, each time a new demand, each time a larger demand is met by us with great success, and we interact with it adaptively instead of reacting in a kind of maladaptive fashion, then we have a direct experience of our ever-expanding capability. And this is very, very good for us. So how do we break the habit of a sense of limited capability? Through actually having a direct experience that my capability is not as limited as once it had been. So next area is the area of gaining one's identity solely from reflections back to oneself from the outside world. You know, what am I? Not just who am I, but what am I? I'm an experiencer. I find myself in a body, and when I think for a moment, I exist, and there's a world existing around me. What is it that has gone into, what is it that's the basis of me being a knower, an experiencer? And what am I? You know, what is my value? What is my worth? What's my identity? We've spent a lifetime trying to answer that question by looking at the way that the world reflects back to us its own state of consciousness, different states of consciousness, reflecting back to us the answer to the question. Someone's in a good mood, they reflect back to you a smile and some happiness. They're simply reporting on their own consciousness state, but we think, well, that person likes me, I must be okay. but then that person could change their state of consciousness anytime and be in a bad mood or an incapable mood or in a sad mood or any kind of thing. And so then when we see them looking that way, when they look in our direction, we're bewildered because I thought I was good according to so and so. Now I seem to be not so good according to so and so. What's wrong? What did I do wrong? What more could I do in order to go back to getting the smiles? You know, you look around the world and you see all of these, what you've decided are icons of perfection, which are perfectly airbrushed into those positions that they find themselves in. And you think, well, you know, let's have a look in the shop window mirror at myself. Do I look like that? If I don't look like that, what do I have to offer? You know, if I can't behave like somebody who has sat in front of a camera and spouted perfect memorized lines, a movie star, you know, in a particular film clip, if I can't be that, and if that's the comparison point, what am I? And of course, we don't know anything about how that person actually is when they're in their trailer in between takes. But they know they're probably having the same problem that you're having. You know, what am I? What's my value? What's my worth? And so since our receptor for identity is aimed outward at all times. This is what I look like, this is what I sound like, this is what people think about me. Different people think different things about me and all of that. And I'm forming a self-opinion about what I am, what my identity is, what my therefore value is to exist here, the value of my existence, based upon only exterior things. And these exterior things are changing all the time. That means my own sense of identity, my own sense of value, my own sense of worth also is changing all the time. If change is the baseline from which I'm deriving my identity, then my own self, my own value, my own identity as a human being is based on nothing but change. And for me to be nothing but the shifting sands of identity inside is a very, very taxing experience. When we practice Vedic meditation, we transcend this fault, this habit of having only the outer, because we take our sensory apparatus inwards during Vedic meditation and we experience the deep, vast unboundedness of full potential. Our mind settling into that state for a few minutes each morning and each evening, that unconditional, pure creative intelligence, that infinite reservoir of creativity and intelligence imprints itself very delicately on the nature of the mind. When we come out of meditation, we've had something added to our sense of what we are. And every day that keeps getting added back and added back and added back. I am not simply, you know, however many likes I got on Facebook, or however many likes I got on Instagram, or, you know, I'm not simply a certain shape that, you know, I've seen in the shop window as I walked past. I am this unboundedness inside. This unboundedness is beginning to assert itself as my true, non-changing inner identity, and its character is pure, supreme bliss. It loves itself inside. And so I have a baseline of happiness. I have this identity inside that is non-changing. This breaks the habit of solely looking to the outside for some sense of verification and validation of the value of the self.